Hi everyone, my name is Katie Robertson. I am the founder and director for the Anchor Gathering, and I just want to welcome you here in person to our in-person gathering, and we're in Kirkland, Washington at the Vossler Studios, and we are so thankful that we can all be together here in person. And we also want to say welcome to all of you who are tuning in online in a watch party, or some of you might be on your own. We are so thankful you're joining us tonight. We've got a great evening planned. Before we get started, I always like to share a few things. We would love your help in getting the word out there about the Anchor and the good news we share about Jesus Christ. So there's a few things that you can do. First of all, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Anchor Gathering. And also, you can follow us, like us, share us on our social media platforms. That would be awesome if you did that. And most important, we love for you to consider becoming a watch party host. And that entails opening your home and inviting women in to watch our monthly Anchor at Home program. If you think that sounds interesting, you get a little nudge there, you can go to our website, theanchorgathering.com, and find out more. We'd love to connect with you. So, together, we can all make a huge difference. Now, at every Anchor, we like to start with music, and tonight, it is an honor to get to introduce to you our special music guest. His name is Curtis Chapman. He is a top contemporary Christian artist. He has amazing awards. He's got 59 Dove Awards, 5 Grammys, and 50 #1 hit songs. He just recently hit that mark with his latest song. So we are so thankful that we get to hear from him tonight. He and his wife, Mary Beth, live in Franklin, Tennessee with their family, and we're so grateful that he is sharing a special message to us and song. So let's enjoy now Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Well, hey everybody, Stephen Curtis Chapman here, and how are you? I wanted to just stop in and say a quick hello to some very dear friends of mine. First of all, Katie, how are you? It has been way too long. Miss seeing you and Ron. To my friends Les and Leslie Parrott, blessings on you guys. To my long-lost brother, Gary Chapman, how are you, brother? And to you women of the Anchor, I know you're gathered to discuss, to learn about the 5 love languages. And I don't know if this fits in the 5. This is like number 6, maybe, songs. So I have written a lot of songs for the love of my life. And this is one that I thought I'll do just a little piece of this kind of to offer to your time there. And before I have to run on stage here in just a minute and do a concert. So here you go from my bride of almost 40 years, Mary Beth. I will be here when you feel like being quiet, when you need to speak your mind. I will listen, and I will be here when the laughter turns to crying, through the winning, losing, and trying. We'll be together, 'cause I will be here. Tomorrow morning, if you wake up and the future is unclear, I will be here. Just as sure as the seasons were made for change, our lifetimes were made for these years. So I will be here, and I will be here so you can cry on my shoulder when the mirror tells us we're older. I will hold you, and I will be here to watch you grow in beauty and tell you all the things you mean to me. I will be here. Oh, I will be true to the promise I have made.
gave you to me. Oh, I will be here. And just as sure as the seasons were made for change, our lifetimes were made for these years. So I will be here, we'll be together. Oh yes we will, 'cause I will be here. I will be here.
All right, God bless y'all. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for that beautiful song. Those lyrics are perfect for the theme for tonight here at the Anchor. And now at this time, we have what's called the Anchor Moment. And that is a time we get to hear from a guest a little bit about their life, their faith journey, and a time they've had an anchor moment. And an anchor moment is a time you've seen the Lord to be real in your life. Your faith has been grounded and anchored. And tonight we are so thankful we get to have with us Dr. Gary Chapman. And just a few things about him. He is a well-known author and speaker. He's written over 40 books. And one of the most popular, I think most of you have heard of it, it is called The 5 Love Languages. And these are some impressive facts. That book has sold over 20 million copies and been translated into 50 languages. I'm thinking, wow, that is a lot. He also has been a family counselor for 40 years, an associate senior pastor for 50 years, and he's been married to his wife, Carolyn, for over 60 years. And he has 2 children, and they live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So let's hear now from Dr. Gary Chapman.
Well, thank you, Katie, and I'm glad to be with you and all the women at the Anchor Gathering and those online. You know, I have been involved in marriage and family counseling now for over 40 years, trying to help marriages and families learn how to relate to each other in a positive way. And of course, love is a big issue, and the love languages, the 5 love languages, grew out of my counseling. It's been a wonderful journey, really walking, with people and helping people, because I believe, we're here to serve other people. We're not here to be served. I mean, Jesus said that about himself. I'm not here to be served. I'm here to serve. And so, but there have been hard times along the way, as many of you have experienced. I remember the morning that my wife said to me after breakfast, she said, "Gary, I want you to sit down. I need to tell you something." And she said, "Yesterday, I talked to the doctor, and I have cancer, and we're going to have surgery in a week." And she said, "I didn't tell you last night because I didn't want to keep you awake all night. But," she said, "you need to know, and I'm telling you." And I cried. And when I finished crying, I said, "Okay, Carolyn, I'm going to cancel all my speaking engagements for the next year, and I'm going to be here with you." And she said, "Gary, you listen to me. You're not going to cancel anything. God knew this was going to happen. This is no surprise to him. You're going to do what God has put on your calendar. You'll be here when I need you. If you happen to be away, I have friends that'll be here in 5 minutes." And I know she was right about that. So for the next year, she went through the cancer journey with chemotherapy, lost her hair, lost weight, all of that. She calls it her lost year in her life. But through all of that, both of us came much, much closer. And going through that experience, I came to appreciate her even more. The other thing is, when you've gone through those kind of experiences on the other side, things that used to bother you about the other person, they don't bother you anymore, because you're just glad they're still here with you. And through all of this, of course, God has been very, very faithful. And of course, she's doing fine now. It was 12 years ago. She's doing wonderful now. And we're grateful for that, because we all know that doesn't always happen with cancer victims. So I just want to encourage you in your walk. There's going to be ups and downs through life. There'll be hard times. God has promised to walk with us every step of the journey, and He certainly has for us. And I want to encourage you to continue pursuing a relationship with Him, because our relationship with God affects every other relationship in our lives. And nothing, again, I want to say is more important than relationships. First with God, and then with other people.
Well, thank you, Gary, for that encouraging message and that reminder, really, that the most important relationship that we can have is with the Lord. He brings us that strength and the courage and the peace and the love, everything we need. So that was awesome. At this time, it is a privilege for me to get to introduce our main speakers, Doctors Les and Leslie Parrott, and they are #1 New York Times best-selling authors. They've sold over 5 million copies of their books in over 24 languages. I always think this is so amazing. And they, this is a fun fact, they were the co-founders of the very first ever online matching site, eHarmony, if you didn't know that. And they speak all over the country and have been on every show you can imagine, like Oprah, The View, Today, Good Morning America, all the good ones. And they live in Seattle, and they have 2 grown sons. And as I was preparing these little introductions, it dawned on me, kind of a special fact I'm going to share. I thought about the first time I ever heard about Les Parrott goes back to when my daughter Karina was with us. And some of you know my story. Our daughter Karina passed away after a 5-year battle with cancer. And that last year, before she got sick, she did get to attend college for 1 quarter at Seattle Pacific University. And she came home, and this was so cute. She said, "Mom, my favorite professor is Les Parrott." And I'm like, wow. And then she told me, "Mom, you would love his style. He would be a really good speaker for something." And like, I remember that. And I honestly, that I was remembering this, let me tell you, I work hard on my little introduction notes. that came to my mind, I thought was really special. It's come full circle. What were the chances? Like, the one professor, I mean, she's only in college for 1 quarter. So Les and Leslie Parrott are dear friends, and I'm so thankful they're here to share a very special message. Let's welcome now Les and Leslie Parrott.
How many of you have had a conflict with someone you love? Raise your hand, keep them up. Now look around the room. No, I want you to keep your hands up. And look around the room. Do you see the people that don't have their hands up? What do we call them?
Here. You want to grab this for a moment?
Yeah. So, oops. I don't want you touching me, so here. Let's talk a little bit about conflict, because these often go hand in hand.
Right.
I mean, my favorite verse in all of Scripture on conflict is Romans 12:18. It says, "If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, try to live at peace with everyone." You know why I like that verse so well? I don't know of another verse in all Scripture that has more qualifiers in it than that single verse. Sure. Even Scripture's acknowledging we're going to have, if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, try, give it a shot, do what you can, right? Yeah. So we're going to give you a little taste of this thing that we do called Fight Night, and just a really quick, abbreviated version of it. We're going to give you one reason why we fight with the person that we love the most.
Yeah, and it's important to start there, because it really doesn't help if you don't know why it happens till you get that moment of insight and you go, aha, okay, I finally get it, that you can make a change.
Right. And then we're going to have round 2, 5-10 minutes later, on how, right? We're going to start with why, and then we're going to give you one reason why and one thing to do in the midst of conflict, or to prevent conflict, possibly, right? And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the 5 love languages. How's that sound? All in favor, say aye. All right. In fact, let's do this just to make sure you have the right attitude as we talk about conflict. Turn to somebody next to you and say, you really need this. We all need this, right?
Yep.
So there's different kinds of fights, right?
Yeah,
Not-
I mean, some fights we know they're good. I mean, like you kind of have this feeling, man, we did this, and we kind of feel closer together after
Right.
having it. But then there are other fights that are miserable.
Yeah, there's bad
Yeah.
fights that pull us apart.
Right.
Good fights, we often say conflict is the price you pay for deeper intimacy. If you know how to fight a good fight, it can actually bring you closer together, more love in the relationship, believe it or not. But then there's bad fights, of
Yeah.
course, that's what we want to steer clear of. But then there's this third category
Right.
that are just dumb. They're
Yeah.
they're just dumb fights. Have you ever had a dumb fight? We had a couple we were working with a while back. They were having a fight about whether or not their cat was fat or not. Right?
Yeah.
That's a dumb fight. What else?
Do you remember the pastor and his wife? They
Yes, in the
confessed to
bedroom
us, yeah,
with the
in
lights?
in the bedroom. Yeah, it sounds.
You know how the
sounds
person that goes to
juicy,
bed
but
last in a marriage relationship, they need to flip the switch off, right? I mean, it's just
just
natural.
like a rule. Yeah.
For whatever reason, it was a pastor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a pastor and his wife. And for whatever reason on this particular night, they were headed to bed, and they were walking up the stairs together without saying a word about this. They just got to the top of the platform of the stairs, and they just both bolted down the hallway and dove into bed, all right? So that they could be the first one in bed and the other person would have to turn off the lights. And so they got into this little tussle about who landed in bed, whose feet left the ground. I mean, it was just a whole thing. They literally went to bed with the lights on.
Yeah.
All right? True story. That's what they told us.
Yeah.
So, and we've certainly had our fair share
Totally.
of dumb fights.
And dumb fights happen often when you're not your best, right? You're a little tired. We had this moment where it totally caught us off guard. We had just been traveling, so you come home and we're a little weary and bedraggled from the road. And I just took one look at Les. It was kind of early in the morning after an all-night flight. And I just thought, it's a low point for him. This would be a moment I could do something nice, right? I could really love on him. So I thought, it doesn't take that much, and I just decided to make him a really healthy breakfast. On the road, you don't get the healthy food. So all I did was make him a bowl of oatmeal, sliced up some berries and some fruit, little pitcher of cream, and I just quietly served it to him at our...
Which shocked me completely
Totally,
because I was
yeah.
like, wow, where did you get the energy to do this right now? We were both exhausted.
Totally.
The suitcase filled with dirty laundry and mail piled up and all the rest.
Yes.
And how did you do that? And so I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And so I just started showing my appreciation. I just said, man, thank you. And by the way, words of affirmation, that's Leslie's top love language. So that's how I manipulate her. And but in this case, it was
So
genuine.
true.
And I was just like, wow, thank you
Yeah.
for doing that. Now, all of you that have the love language, words of affirmation, raise your hands if you do, all right?
Okay.
You know
My
that if
people.
somebody gives you a little word of affirmation, it's like crack, right? You
Yes.
want more,
It's a
right?
shot of energy.
And so Leslie,
Yeah, so I got totally energized, and I thought, man, that was awesome. What else could I do? So then it just crossed my mind, and I just know him. I know how he loves to get his world back in order. So as he's sitting at the little island in our kitchen eating his oatmeal, I just rounded the corner with this fresh burst of energy, and I said, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go get all your laundry done. And I was just so kind of waiting for his reaction. And this is literally the reaction he gave me in that moment.
That's not what I did, but go ahead with the story.
So totally what he did. And so all of a sudden, I'm like feeling de-energized, totally deflated. I'm exhausted, wondering why I volunteered to do his laundry. And I'm heading back to the laundry room, and I start to have a pity party. I'm like, I was doing all the hard work too, and I'm just as tired. Why am I the one doing these nice things that I volunteered willingly to do? So I'm back in the laundry room just kind of shoving stuff in, and I had some tears. I'm exhausted, and the tears of pity were rolling.
And
so
when she came back
yeah.
out, I could tell immediately that she'd been crying. Every guy can tell when, And I said, hey, what's wrong? And she said, nothing, right? And I said, well, it looks like you've been crying. She said, well, I have a little bit. I said, what happened back there? She says, it's not what happened back there, it's what happened out here. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, I told you I was going to go do the laundry, and you gave me that sarcastic clap. I said, I didn't give you a sarcastic, I don't even know how to clap in a sarcastic way. She said, yeah, you were like clapping all sarcastic. And I said, my mouth was full of oatmeal. You were moving so quick. I wanted you to know I appreciate it. The only thing I put my spoon down and I applauded you as you left the room. She said, well, it looks sarcastic. I said, I don't care how it looked. It was a words of affirmation, man. So then we had one of those lovely conversations for the next 20 minutes about how apparently I don't clap the right way. So...
But that is a totally dumb fight because I wanted him to feel loved and he appreciated it and we had a fight.
And I wanted you to feel loved,
yes.
Right? Here we were and we were missing each other. So that's a dumb fight. Sometimes they happen like even in the greatest of moments.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed this? I'm thinking about London.
I know. Okay, here's the deal. We got a phone call inviting us to speak at a marriage conference, and we loved those. And then we discovered it was in London, and so we also loved that.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when the call came in, and I'm talking to the people, and so I go into the kitchen, and I said, hey, Les, I said, we got an invite to speak in London. I said, do you need to pray about this? Because I don't. Let's go, right?
And the beautiful thing about it was the conference ended and it was perfectly timed with our anniversary weekend. So we're in London, we're through with our work, it's just the two of us, not the kids, and we get to have this sweet time in London. And we had a great time. We did the high tea, we did the whole thing, and loved it.
And then it was the last night.
Yep.
And it was one for the record books. I mean, the kids home with grandma, and we're just having just us and lovely dinners and just a great time. And it was the last night, and we're out walking around, and here we are on the bridge right there in front of Parliament in Big Ben, and a passerby says, hey, you want us to take your picture? I said, yeah, that'd be great. So they took our picture. Now look at how romantic that is. You wouldn't think, you would not guess that in less than 10 minutes after that photo was taken, that we could be embroiled in conflict, all right? Here it is on one of the greatest weekends of our life, and the guy gives me back the camera, and Leslie goes, hey, we didn't get those sweatshirts. Yeah. I said, sweatshirts for what? She said, what do you mean, what sweatshirts? She said, the sweatshirts for the boys. I've been talking about it all week. I said, of course, yes, the sweatshirts. And she said, maybe there's a shop that's still open. We went down, and still a shop. And so I think we were the only people in there. The guy was at the register. And so we're shopping around. And actually, you're shopping around. I'm standing by the cash register. I got my phone out, and I'm looking at a map or something. And Leslie comes back over, and she said, hey, what about these two sweatshirts? She said, do you think this will be good? Because I didn't know whether the boys should have two different colors or what. And I said, I was thinking about this. Do the boys really even need sweatshirts? She said, yeah, they love sweatshirts. They wear them every day. They're going to love having sweatshirts. She says, I think I want to get hoodies anyway. She goes back. She does a little bit more shopping. She comes back. She says, here's these two sweatshirts. I like the hoodies better, but this one looks, I don't know, do you think John would like this one? And so forth. And I said, hey, I was also thinking about this. We're doing one suitcase, international. It's carry-on. I don't even think we have room in our suitcase for two big, fluffy sweatshirts. She said, do you have a problem with the sweatshirts? I said, no, what gives you that idea, right? Just trying to be helpful. She says, I know what I want. And she goes back. She comes back finally. She says, these two. I want these two sweatshirts. I said, great, let's get them. I lift up the sleeve of one of them. I look at the price tag, and I said, good night. I said, look at the price of these sweatshirts. Well, at that moment, Leslie, she didn't say anything. She just took the two sweatshirts. She threw them at me. And by the way, they had hangers in them. I could have been injured. She threw them at me. And she just walked right out of that store. All right? Now, the guy at the cash register, he observed this whole thing. We didn't have any words. He just looked at me like, this is you, buddy. And so I handed the sweatshirts to him. I said, I don't know if we'll be back or not, but I left. And so I'm thinking Leslie's out there waiting for me. And I go out there. I can't see her anywhere. And then I realize she's way down the street. And so I hustle. I'm running a few paces behind her. And I said, hey, why are you walking so fast? And then she says something only a marriage and family therapist says to her husband. She says, angry energy. And yeah, I thought it was funny too. And I didn't laugh out loud because I'm not an idiot, but I catch up with her. She's standing, we're waiting to cross, we're at a red light, and we're just standing there. Now, have you ever had this experience? You're not saying anything, but the icy tension is palpable, right? And so the light turns and we walk across the street and we walk, I don't know, another couple blocks. We're just not saying anything. We're just walking with no plan, not speaking a word, just angry energy, all right? And finally we get to maybe the third stoplight and I just thought, I'm gonna kind of risk it. And without saying anything, I just reached down and I grabbed her hand, okay? Now this has been our signal for a long time in our marriage, 3 squeezes, right? Now, if I give her 3 squeezes and I get 3 squeezes back, I know we're good. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to process it. And so I gave her the 3 squeezes, and I got the 3 squeezes back after about 45 minutes or so. And and I'd let you know this too. And by the way, what do you think we were doing less than 5 minutes after the hand holding? Yeah, we were getting ripped off at the sweatshirt store. So, but we go, but I tell you this because in years gone by, it wouldn't have been like that. We would have carried that icy tension on the airplane back to Seattle the next morning.
I mean, that's the point. That here we are in London having the time of our life, and literally those are the kind of lingering conflicts that could hang with us so that it would interrupt it and we'd feel distant the whole flight home, right?
Absolutely.
If we don't know how to handle it.
So the question is why? Why in the world would we have conflict on one of the greatest weeks of our life? How could you possibly, over sweatshirts?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Well, if you want to write down the reason, you can sum it up in a single word, and that word is perception. Perception. Every conflict we have is the result of how you perceive it and how another person perceives it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, let me illustrate this. Look at this little picture. You can plainly see that's 2 dogs, but look a little more carefully. What's in between them? There you go, the Space Needle. How many of you see the 2 dogs and the Space Needle at the exact same time? Okay? Actually, you do not. Because it is literally impossible to see them at the exact same time. You can flicker back and forth, but one has to be figure, one has to be ground. Yeah. And sometimes we do that in our relationships.
Well, yeah,
right?
That's just how our brain's hardwired. But the truth is, we so often look at something, a situation, whatever's going on, we're looking at it with our spouse, we think we see the whole thing. We think we see it, your perspective and mine.
Yeah, so just quit talking about it.
Yeah, you don't need to tell me.
Right?
I've got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but here's one more. And it also involves a dog. If you've seen this before, you see the dog immediately. I've named him Blue. His nose is right there in the middle of the picture. He's a Dalmatian dog. Do you see the dog? Help your neighbor see the dog if they don't see it, would you? His body goes off to the right. Do you see it? How many still don't see it? Okay. This is actually used as a sophisticated item in an IQ test to determine what. No, I'm just kidding.
That is not at all
true. It has nothing to do with
true.
smarts. But if you look more carefully, you're going to see this dog in a second. Like I said, his name is Blue. Oh. Now, do you hear that? Did you hear that from some people? Let's all say that on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh. All right. That's the sound of a conflict ending. Right. All right? That's what okay. Why didn't you say at the beginning? I didn't understand. That's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, and it can be so confusing because something can be so obvious to you. If you have connected the dots on that dog, you can't look at it and not see the dog, right? But it can be frustrating. You can be talking to someone, anyone, a friend, a family member, your child, your spouse, and it's like if you were even looking, you could not see this. But to them, it's just a sea of dots, you know? I mean, that's why I love languages, because once you know this is how I can feel loved, or this is how I can love you, you see the blue dog, right? But otherwise, it's a sea of confusion. I don't get it. And you can feel so lonely in that.
Because of perception. Now,
yeah.
This isn't just armchair psychology. We know this from research, and in fact, a pretty big study from one of our students that was at SBU with us.
Yeah, exactly. Did a landmark study at Baylor University, and really it's one of the best studies on conflict. And here's what they discovered. When it comes to a conversation with someone, when you have conflict, there are two kinds of perceptions that literally always lead to a fight. The first is perceived neglect, and the second is perceived threat.
Right. Perceived threat, what does that look like?
Yeah, so perceived threat, this is that feeling you get when you're talking to someone and all of a sudden you start to have this dawning feeling like, I feel like you're kind of critical right now, or you're trying to control me a little bit, or maybe you're asking too much of me, and you just start to feel emotionally threatened.
Yep, and perceived neglect?
Totally different experience. That's when it almost feels like you just can't get through to someone. Like, you're talking, but if they're paying attention, they don't seem to really care about the issue for you. Like, they don't seem kind. They don't seem like they're tuned in. They don't seem like they're picking up on what a big deal it is to you or what matters most to you in the moment.
Yeah, you can write it down. Every conflict we have is a result of one of these two perceptions,
right.
Perceived threat or perceived neglect, or the combo of both of them. Now, let's give you one thing practical that you can do to kind of curb your conflict a little bit,
right.
and leverage it. Like I said, conflict is the price we pay for a better connection with people. And so let's talk about this a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we're going to talk about love languages briefly.
This is something designed to prevent the bad fights.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's things that we can do in the midst of conflict
right.
that help, but this is something, and it's we call it sharing withholds. We've been teaching this for a long, long time, but I thought I want to share it with you guys because we hear more positive stories from couples and from friends,
honestly,
roommates,
families.
Absolutely, on this little thing. And what it'll do is diminish the tension and increase the connection. That's what we all want, right? And so it's just a little 5 to 10 minute investment per week in your relationships that that are the most important to you, the loving relationships. And it just starts with this little thing called sharing withholds.
Yeah.
Every day in every relationship, there's information that we withhold from one another. Not because we're secretive or we're private. It's just we're moving at the speed of life.
Right.
We don't get to talk about everything that registers in our head. So we have positive withholds. We have negative withholds. What's a positive withhold?
Well, honestly, okay, you were talking to Jackson, and he was being pretty vulnerable, our son, Jackson, and I overheard you having an amazing moment of parenting. I just thought, okay, that was brilliant. I wouldn't have known what to do in that moment. But of course, I didn't interrupt or anything. And then I thought I would tell you about it later, but not until this moment.
It just went away.
Yeah.
All right? So that's a positive withhold. It's something that registered in your mind. It was like a compliment you wanted to give me, and then you never ended up giving it to me.
Totally.
And I'm guessing that happens a lot for you. So here's the truth. It does happen a lot for her, and it happens a lot for me, and it happens a lot for everybody in this room.
Yeah.
Because positive things register, but it's just life. It just kind of gets away from us, and oh man, I never did tell them that, right?
Right.
And so we have that's a positive withhold, and then of course
sure.
we have negative withholds. I'm thinking of one.
When we were out to eat and
Yeah.
yeah.
Where I thought I was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You thought you were funny.
Right.
Yeah. So
Everybody else thought I was funny,
Yeah.
just not you.
Yeah.
Leslie started to laugh, and then you kind of caught yourself and thought, wait, is he sending me a message? Was that like a little bit of a zinger going on right there? Well, she's not going to confront me in front of our friends. She's going to wait till we get home, but maybe it's midnight and it's late, and she's thinking, I'll do that in the morning, but in the morning we're both off to work or whatever. And we never do. And by the way, what happens to negative feelings that we bury? Exactly, right? They have a high rate of resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay? Have you ever felt like you stepped on a landmine in your relationship with a friend or a loved one? And it's just like, wow, that's because there's a wound there.
Right.
There's a wound that's never been addressed.
Right.
Okay? And so this little exercise that we're about to teach you is designed to get those wounds healed. And
bring up all those really great things that you've been missing out on.
Yeah. So here's how it goes. In the relationship, you can just, talk about how it works. And then once you both understand that, you can just say, hey, would you like to share withholds?
Yeah. And if the person agrees, then you can get out a piece of scrap paper or just think about it. And writing it down is actually the best
Writing
policy.
down 3 withholds, 2 positive withholds, 1 negative.
Right.
And these are things that have happened in the last, 48 hours.
This is fresh.
You're not dredging stuff up from 19. When did you get those teapots?
Not work
I
with
love
teapots.
that story, yeah. And it takes a little while.
I'm glad you said that, because often if I say to you, hey, do you want to share withholds? You'll be like, I don't have any.
Yeah, can't think of any.
But if I give you just 30 seconds, you start to remember, oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, or 5 minutes even. It might take a little while.
They're not right there on the surface, but they're not buried very deep.
Think of a positive withhold that is registered for you for a loved one that you haven't shared with that person in the last 48 hours, right? It takes a little while for the wheels to turn on that. Okay, so once you both have your list of 2 positive, 1 negative, then you simply share those. In this exercise, I simply respond with 2 words. The 2 words are thank you. I don't explain, I don't justify, I just thank you, all right? Yeah, not I'm sorry, because I may not be sorry yet. The words are thank you. In other words, thank you for sharing the information, right? And then here's the real caveat for this whole thing. For the next 30 minutes, those negative withholds are off limits. For the next 30 minutes, we don't talk about those negative
really
withholds.
important.
Why? What happens in that 30-minute period? And by the way, it's not like you sit there for 30 minutes and go, all right, 10 more minutes, you're going to get it, What takes, a little sanity seeps down into your cortex. Mm-hmm. You get a little objectivity on the situation, right? And so now you can stand back and have some...
Yeah, because you move from reacting to responding.
Exactly.
And it creates this softer conversation. And often, to be honest, we don't even go back to it because we feel heard.
Yeah.
And by the time you've processed it and it's kind of distilled and you're not defensive, maybe you prayed about it before you even needed to talk about it, it's just like, okay, message received. Yeah. But when we do, it's a really different experience than it would have been in that fresh moment.
Yeah, it's like the Holy Spirit has a chance to do some work in you, right? So that little exercise, I'm telling you, and by the way, you can use this with kids. How many of you have teenagers at home, just out of curiosity? All right.
Okay.
So one mom said, if you ever share this with other moms, you have to let them know what happened at our house. But it's just classic, right?
Yes.
And so they explained the rules and said, so does anybody have a withhold? And their 15-year-old said, yeah, I got a withhold. They said, great, let's hear it. And he said, well, the other day I was in my algebra class and we were having like a quiz thing, and I don't know, it's like I was caught cheating on it or something. And anyway, I got sent out of the classroom and had to go down to the detention hall, and I don't know, like the principal gave me this letter, like you guys have to sign it so I can get back into class. And so anyway, for the last 3 or 4 days, I've been in the detention hall rather than algebra class, and I basically wanted you guys to know that, well, that's my withhold. And mom and dad say, thank you. Right? 30 minutes, pal. So it really does work well.
Yeah.
We've used it with our kids growing up.
We still do.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. That's one reason we have conflict. One thing you can do. And by the way, we sometimes tell newlyweds, choose your ruts carefully because you're going to be in them for a long time, right? This is a groove that you can carve into any relationship, not just your marriage, but with friends.
Yeah.
We have people, we know roommates, college roommates that'll do this together and stuff. So, all right.
Totally helpful.
All that, I said we were going to talk about love and conflict, and so we want to tell you about something that's pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. We've been working on this for 3 years, what I'm about to share with you, and the real reason that we happen to be on this stage tonight at that New Year's party at our house Katie and Ron, we were talking about some stuff and hearing more incredible things about the anchor. And by the way, is this anchor thing not an incredible gift?
Yeah.
I mean, man,
Yay.
amazing. We have been working on a way to really experience the love languages like never before.
Yeah.
Everybody in here knows their love language. Can you list them off?
A lot of them may have taken the quiz. Did you take the quiz even
The free
before you
quiz?
came, or
Yeah.
whatever? But how many of you are words of affirmation? You know that's your primary love language.
You guys are fantastic.
How many of you are acts of service? That's your primary. Yeah.
Let us know if we can get you anything.
Yeah. How many of you are receiving gifts is your primary? Okay.
One?
Well, look,
Was
they're
there only one?
sheepish. Don't know. No, there's a
Oh,
couple.
two?
Why are you shy about that? No, there's a few. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good thing. And then some of you are quality time. How many of you experience that? Yeah. Okay, and finally, physical touch. Look at this proud one. Yeah, I like it. I know it. That's
Yeah,
great.
so those five, we all
Yeah.
are pretty familiar with knowing those. And it's one thing
Yeah.
to kind of know your love language.
Yes.
And Gary and Leslie and I have been talking for many years about the dialect of your love language, because that's really where the action is. It's not just knowing your love language,
Yeah.
but that dialect. you
Because
know?
it gets a lot more personal than just, I love words of affirmation.
Exactly.
It's not that easy.
So here's what we've
actually.
done. We've been,
Yeah.
as you can tell, we love assessment stuff, starting way back with eHarmony and everything else, and personality stuff. And so we thought there's got to be a way to kind of, I call it thin slicing, when you can kind of see the insides of something, you thin slice it. And that's what we've done with the love languages,
it's
right?
been pretty
And so now, in a matter of a few days, you're going to be able to go online and answer a few questions. It takes about 10 minutes or so. You do this on your own. It's not a relationship thing for doing it with another
it's just
person.
for you to. And listen, this is a huge gift. Women are afraid sometimes, think it's selfish to be fully self-aware, but knowing your love language is important. You need to know yourself, and then it's a vulnerable thing to honestly share it with people and invite them to be able to connect with you more deeply, right? It's not a selfish thing, it's a self-awareness thing.
Right, and
Yeah.
there's mutuality in it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so when you answer this thing, I'm just going to show you a handful of the pages. There's about 15 total, but just to show you half a dozen of them. But first of all, you get this page that gives you the overview of all of your 5 love languages and describes those. You
Yeah,
can
so
see-
it's not just you figure out what your primary is, but you get to see where they all stack up, because some of you are multilingual, right? So.
Right, and so you can see a secondary love language for this particular person. Physical touch is by far and away their biggest one, but then they have a couple secondary love languages. And then they have some foreign love languages. Now, this has never been talked about. This isn't in
Right.
the book. Foreign love languages. And why is that important?
Yeah, because sometimes we have to understand we literally have to start at square one. This is something I do not relate to, so I don't speak it very fluently. And so if you have someone you love that has that love language, there's some strides forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So it gives you that bird's eye view of things. And then the next thing it does is help you with 4 people in your life to identify how full your love tank is with each of them. Okay? Now, love tanks change.
Yeah.
They're not static.
It's a fluid thing.
Right.
Right. But I mean, this is so powerful. I'm in a small group of women. We've been meeting. How interesting would it be to all go through, identify our love language, and then think about, are we feeling connected? Do we all feel, loved in this context? And
so it can be like that, or it can be
Yeah.
even with your kids. This isn't
Right.
love languages is not just romantic
Right.
love.
Right.
And so you can do this with a small group. You can do it with your family, your in-laws, anybody that you want. But it'll give you some awareness of how full your love tank is and what tends to drain it most, and so forth. And then there's just a couple of quick examples of love language, words of affirmation. So many people in here have that. And like I said, it's Leslie's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And what we realize is when you do the research on affirmation, it really comes down to 3 things. Encouragement, huge for lots of people. Appreciation, and then compliments. Now, I've known Leslie's love language for a long, long time, couple of decades. I thought I was doing pretty well at it. And not until we got into this did I realize I was putting all of my chips on encouraging Leslie. Man, you can do this. I believe in you, right? All kinds of things, and which she likes, but not nearly as much.
Yeah, what I really
as
want are compliments. Come on. That's what, all he has to do is say, your eyes sparkle, and I'm a pat of butter, right? Yeah. I don't need to hear "atta girl" as much as
I have failed as a man. Yes.
It's true because you started noticing, like, if he gave me a compliment.
If I compliment this sweater, she's going to wear it for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
All right.
And I won't even realize why I want to wear it again, but I do. So.
But those compliments meant way more to you than I ever realized.
But it's so important because everyone has their own dialect, you know, and we're not just a one thing fits all in any of these.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's awareness. We psychologists like to say awareness is curative. Once you become aware of something, now you can do something about it. I just wasn't aware that compliments were so important, right? In your words of affirmation. Here's another quick example, gifts. And there was just 2 of you that raised your hands, I think, on gifts. But all of us give gifts, right?
There were more. They just didn't get their hands up.
But we all give gifts, whether it's your love language or a foreign love language. Gifts are a part of, occasions.
I think this is epic because we give and receive gifts all the time. And what kind of gifts meet the need? This is,
Yeah, so let's do a little quick survey. You can see down here, it's super simple. Would you rather have, just be honest, I'm going to, by show of hands, have an extravagant gift or a simple gift? How many say, I want an extravagant gift? I don't mind if somebody spends a lot of money.
No guilt.
All right? Okay. How many say, I actually prefer a simple gift, not very expensive? Okay. All right. And then the second big continuum there, would you prefer a gift that is practical or heartfelt? Practical is something you know you're going to put into use. Heartfelt, it makes you feel a certain way, not necessarily something you use. How many say, I would rather have practical over heartfelt?
Practical?
Okay.
Yeah, look at these.
And then how about heartfelt?
Sentimental.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as you can see, you're going to land in a certain area. We don't give you a percentile score.
Right.
But this particular person likes sentimental gifts, heartfelt and simple. Doesn't mean that's all they like.
Right.
But it's a thing.
That's their dialect, you know?
And so an example of a sentimental gift, it's not sensible, it's certainly not functional, and it's usually not fanciful. A sentimental gift, in fact, Gary and I were talking about this just a little while ago. This couple that we were seeing in counseling, and we just gave him this little assignment, and he was definitely not getting the idea that gifts was her love language. And he said, we don't have that in our budget. We don't have.
He thought it needed to be
extravagant. Yeah, got to go to Tiffany or something just to give a gift. And I said, no, you can give her just anything that just represents your love.
From your heart.
So later that week, he came in from a walk. He was out in the woods or something. He came back, and he had a little twig. He gave her a twig. And he said, here, I want you to have this. She said, what is this about? He said, well, as I was walking around, I found this twig, and it just reminded me, I'm kind of like this twig sometimes. He said, I feel so fragile. He said, I feel like sometimes I'm going to snap in two, and you're the person that always protects me. Yeah. How you feel about that twig now? Yeah. Now, that was years ago that he gave her that twig. You think she threw that out eventually? Where do you think that twig is today? Right there in her kitchen at her little desk. She prizes that twig, right? So that's an example of a sentimental twig.
I think we are so out of time.
Yeah, sentimental twig.
Yeah.
You can get one in the back. The twigs are for sale. How are we doing on time? All right, and then one more quick note. We won't illustrate this.
Katie says 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay, and so I asked Gary one day. I said, "What's the biggest question you get out in the wild when you're speaking about this stuff?" And he said, "People always ask, how does it relate to my personality?"
Right.
You know, whether it's the Enneagram or it's the whatever it might be. And so for the very first time, what we've done in this assessment is take your personality as well and lay that on top of your 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So we don't only get your dialect, but how God made you.
Yeah.
Your personality doesn't change. That's who God made you to be.
Right.
Okay? Imagine if you went home to your loved one tonight, and whether it's a friend or a spouse or whatever, and they said, hey, I've been thinking about it while you were gone, and I really want you to, from now on, write with your non-dominant hand. Can you imagine? So if you're right-handed, they want you to write with, and you'd go, why? I was just thinking about it. It's just better for me if you just write with your non-dominant hand. Well, that's nuts. I don't understand why you would want me to. Can you just trust me? I really need you to write with your non-dominant hand. For how long? Going forward, forever. I just want you to write, right? Sometimes we do that in our relationships, and we think, can't you just be more extroverted? Mm-hmm. Right? Why can't you be more like me? Why can't you be more fast-paced? You're late to everything, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever the thing is. Yeah. And so now we're going to take how God made you and look at the 5 love languages through the lenses of that. And by the way, this is research that goes back to Harvard, 75 years. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I could talk all night about it.
But we have no time.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. If you can't tell, we're excited about this. Here's the last thing I want to mention. This is a page that we designed that's not a part of your report. It's one page to give to your loved ones. It's how to love Hannah. It's how to love Rebecca. It's how to love. So you can put this on your refrigerator, or you can put it anywhere you want, and hopefully your loved ones will do the same thing.
Yeah.
And there's no more guessing. There's no more wondering, oh man, I know your love tank's low. I just don't know what to do for you. No, we spell it right out for you.
Here's the blue dog.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah,
Perception.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so this person's happens to be physical touch. We know there's 7 kinds of important physical touch in a person's life. You guys get the idea?
Yeah.
So here, I feel like I've let Katie down because
we wanted this to be here for you now.
Yes, we wanted to do that. It's just not quite there. Blame our attorneys. That's the real course of the problem. And then, Katie, can we send out an email to everybody that is hearing this and seeing this?
When it's live?
When it's live?
Yeah.
Literally, you're going to be the very first people in the country to have access to this thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Katie?
That was great. Well, Les and Leslie have given us some discussion questions to go a little deeper with the message, and we're going to give a little time for that here to break up with those around you. Also, that is on our for our watch party. People that are watching online, they can take some time to go a little deeper with the message, or if you're on your own, you can ponder those questions on your own. Well, I just want to say thank you again so much to each and every one of you for being here with us at the Anchor Gathering tonight. We want to wish you a wonderful month filled with grace and peace that the Lord Jesus Christ brings. And like I like to say, until next time, stay anchored, and we'll see you soon.